Welcome to GEDprep AI Tutor. Hands-free lessons designed for learning on the go. Whether you're driving, walking, or commuting, stay sharp and learn smarter, anytime, anywhere. In today's science lesson, we'll learn how to understand and interpret scientific materials, whether they're texts, diagrams, or both. These skills are key for doing well on the GED science test. The scientific method and how it works. In science, questions are answered through a logical, step-by-step process called the scientific method. On the GED science test, you'll often see passages that describe experiments or studies. Knowing how this process works and how to recognize a good hypothesis, valid samples, or reliable conclusions will help you answer those questions correctly. What is the scientific method? The scientific method is the standard way scientists explore observations and answer questions. It includes several basic steps. Observe and ask a question. Start by noticing something and then ask a measurable question about it. Collect data. Gather information, observations, or facts related to the question. Form a hypothesis. Make an educated guess, a testable explanation that can be supported or disproven. Experiment. Test the hypothesis by changing only one factor, called the independent variable. Measure how it affects the dependent variable. The outcome. Draw a conclusion. Decide whether the results support the hypothesis. If not, revise and test again. Example. Hypothesis practice. Scientists noticed unusual plant and algae growth in a pond, along with high bacteria levels. These problems are often linked to too much phosphate and nitrate, chemicals found in farm fertilizers. Since the pond was near farmland, scientists developed a hypothesis. Hypothesis 1. Runoff from the farm may be carrying excess phosphates and nitrates into the pond. Hypothesis 2. Simply being near a farm always causes plant and algae growth. Correct answer is Hypothesis 1. This is specific and testable because water samples could be checked for fertilizer runoff. Why not 2? It is too broad and vague, offering no measurable factor. Understanding variables. In every experiment, it's important to know the role of variables. Independent variable. The factor the scientist changes, e.g., the amount of farm runoff. Dependent variable. The factor measured as an outcome, e.g., plant or algae growth. The role of sample scientists rarely test an entire population. Instead, they use samples, smaller groups that represent the whole. Good samples must be representative of the larger group, large enough to avoid bias, randomized to reduce error. Why it matters. If you only take one water sample from a pond, it may not reflect the true bacteria levels, but multiple samples from different locations give a clearer picture. Example, question. Sample size. 1 sample from near the spring. 2. 10 samples from different parts of the pond. Correct answer is 10 samples from different parts of the pond. Multiple, varied samples lead to more valid conclusions. Observational versus experimental studies. In many cases, scientists run experiments by randomly assigning samples to a control group and an experimental group. For example, to test the effect of phosphates on bacteria, scientists could split pond water into 2 groups. One with phosphates added, experimental, and one without, control. But sometimes experiments aren't possible or ethical. In those cases, scientists rely on observational studies. Example. Farm runoff and fish populations 1. Order some farmers to increase runoff and others to reduce it. 2. Randomly select ponds with high runoff and others with low runoff, then compare fish populations. Correct answer is option 2. This is an observational study which is more realistic and ethical. Forcing farmers to change their practices would not be acceptable. Limitation. Observational studies can be influenced by other factors, like water pH or geography, making results harder to interpret. GED test. Tip. Whenever you read about a study or experiment, ask yourself, is the hypothesis specific and testable? Was the sample size large and representative? Were variables controlled, or could bias affect the results? Thinking critically like a scientist will help you choose the most logical answers on the GED science test. Download GEDprep AI Tutor for more free lessons and practice tests. Now that you've learned the key concepts, let's check your understanding with a few review questions. Question 1. In a scientific study, what is the dependent variable? Option 1. The factor that the experimenter changes. Option 2. The size of the sample used. Option 3. The control group in the experiment. Option 4. The outcome that is measured in response to changes. The correct answer is the outcome that is measured in response to changes. Explanation. In a scientific study, the dependent variable is the result or outcome that scientists observe and measure. It depends on the changes made to the independent variable, the factor the experimenter changes. Think of it as a cause and effect relationship. The independent variable is what the scientist changes, cause. The dependent variable is what the scientist measures, effect. Example. If a scientist tests how different amounts of sunlight affect plant growth, independent variable equals amount of sunlight. Dependent variable equals plant height, the measured outcome. Question 2. Why is it important to have a representative sample in scientific studies? Option 1. To reduce the number of variables. Option 2. To avoid repeating the experiment. Option 3. To ensure the results reflect the whole population accurately. Option 4. To shorten the experiment. The correct answer is to ensure the results reflect the whole population accurately. Explanation. A representative sample means the people or items being studied closely match the larger population in important ways, such as age, gender, background, or behavior. This allows scientists to generalize their findings to the entire population, not just to the small group studied. Example. If researchers study teen sleep habits but only survey teens from one wealthy school, the results may not represent all teens. A representative sample would include students from different schools, regions, and socioeconomic backgrounds. Without a representative sample, results can be biased and may lead to incorrect conclusions. Question 3. Which of the following statements best describes an observational study? Option 1. The researcher gives different treatments to randomly assigned groups. Option 2. The researcher observes naturally occurring groups without manipulating variables. Option 3. The study includes only numerical data. Option 4. The researcher collects data only from a lab. The correct answer is the researcher observes naturally occurring groups without manipulating variables. Explanation. An observational study is when the researcher simply watches and records what happens naturally, without controlling or changing variables. This kind of study is often used when it would be unethical or impractical to assign treatments. For example, a researcher may observe how often people wash their hands in a restroom without asking them to change their behavior. Observational studies can identify patterns or relationships, but they cannot prove cause and effect because the researcher does not control the variables. Search GEDprep AI Tutor on App Store or Google Play and start mastering every subject today. Or, if you want a more convenient option, simply click the link in the description below to download the app.